This is Sassy Earth, and thanks for joining us for this latest episode of ScienceQuest in the Lab. Today, we're going to be talking with Kathryn Cross, founder of Anja Health, a healthcare startup that focuses on stem cell research. Anja Health currently has 3 products: umbilical cord blood, cord tissue, and placenta banking for 3 different types of stem cells that are collected. Anja helps clients cryopreserve each of these easily, ensuring that patients always have access to its powerful stem cells, which can be used against many different healthcare problems all throughout life, including cerebral palsy and some types of cancers. Now, we all know that the issue of women's health and reproductive rights has been in the news a lot lately, and we're so happy to have Kathryn on our show to discuss positive aspects of these issues and how Anja Health is leading the way to help women and families. Let's learn about these stem cells by finding the root of Kathryn's interest in healthcare.
Hello and welcome. I'm Esme with Zoomcatchers, and I'm here to welcome back Kathryn Cross from Anja Health for an interview.
Yeah, thanks for having me. So I'm the founder of Anja Health, and we help pregnant parents keep their stem cells from their umbilical cords and placentas right after birth.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear more about Anja Health and the amazing work that you do.
Yeah, for sure. So I founded it because of my younger brother. His name was Andrew, and so I named the company after him, Anja Health. And basically, he needed cord blood stem cells because he was diagnosed with cerebral palsy at a really young age. And cord blood stem cells is something that historically has been really promising for kids with cerebral palsy. So they're able to receive their stem cells from their umbilical cord intravenously back into their body and improve their motor and social skills. And so it was something really promising for my family, but typically it's been difficult to find a donor if you're mixed race or a person of color. And that was a pain point that my family faced. And so now I'm helping pregnant parents make sure that they know about stem cells in their umbilical cord and that they know about this as an option, and to make sure that no family has to face what mine did.
That's awesome. And you really answered my next question too. Which was kind of how you got interested in this work with your very moving and meaningful story. So thank you for that. But if you would like to speak any more to that, go right ahead.
It's really mainly for my brother and my family. So that's definitely a big motivator in what I do. Now I think I'm also motivated by just speaking with pregnant parents and learning about how lonely their journey can be sometimes. So I really hope that we can just be a helping hand.
That's awesome. And there's really that connection you get to make with pregnant parents. Would you say that, or something else is really your favorite experience working in science and healthcare?
Yeah, I definitely think so. I think it's the feeling of personal impact and the ability to really make sure that we're really helping people. We've gotten a lot of great feedback from pregnant parents about how we've been able to really provide a much more personal experience than I think people typically see in healthcare. I would say that's my favorite part for sure, because I think it's great to really create a lasting impression, especially during a time when they're really searching for something reliable.
That's really awesome. And I'm inspired by the amazing impact you are able to have and your love for it. What would you say is the biggest lesson you've learned through the work that you do?
Mm. Yeah, I would say the biggest lesson is probably just to go for it. I think a lot of people, when they're thinking about starting businesses, they're just sort of like wavering and trying to figure out like, is this really the best option for me? But I think really you don't know if it's going to be the best option for you until you actually go out and do it. So, yeah, it was something really that I just wanted to take on, and so I had a lot of great supporters around me that just really motivated me to go out and do it. And so, yeah, so that's what I did. And I think when it comes to healthcare as well, it's really important that you just begin to take action as long as you're really careful and cautious that you're really within like regulations and really being able to truly take account of your customers. But for the most part, it's good to just go for it because you could be making an impact in all the time that you spend thinking about making an impact.
Yeah, that's amazing. And it sounds like it's a lot of work of helping people, but also raising a lot of awareness for how they can help themselves and their families.
Yeah, definitely.
Now, I'm interested in bio, and I know we're running a ScienceQuest program, so I'd love to hear. Now, you talked a little bit about the science of these stem cells and how they can help, but would you mind explaining a little bit more about the different types, how they work, kind of the science behind it all?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so cord blood stem cells are hematopoietic stem cells, which are basically stem cells that are really inclined to blood regeneration, whereas the cord tissue and placenta are really rich with mesenchymal stem cells, which are really inclined to tissue regeneration. So they're slightly different types of stem cells, but basically the idea is that these stem cells are pretty mature when compared to stem cells, for instance, from aborted fetuses, which is pretty controversial, or stem cells from the bone marrow. So they're slightly different. And as a result, they're really regenerative because they are just mature enough that they've already specified into like blood or tissue stem cells. And so as a result, they're really inclined to blood or tissue. Whereas, for instance, embryonic stem cells that come from embryos and abortions and things like that, they're a little bit more immature in their cell stage. And so they haven't been predefined yet. So they could really become any type of stem cell, even like cancer or cancerous cells. And so, yeah, I think the cord blood and cord tissue and placenta stem cells are at this ripe stage where they've already been matured enough to the point that they won't turn into something dangerous, but they are still young enough that they can help replace and repair damaged cells in the body. And so when people receive a stem cell treatment, they can either get it intravenously, so through a direct injection type of thing, or they can get an IV and receive stem cells that way.
That's really fascinating. And you're making me realize that some of our audience members might not even know what stem cells are. So if you want to explain that to everyone, that could help everyone understand this process and how it works.
Yeah, so stem cells are basically like blank cells at a high level, and they can help replace and repair damaged cells in the body. So they're just a specific type of cell that are in like really regenerative areas, and so that's why they tend to be coming from like birth related sources, so like the umbilical cord and placenta and embryos and things like that, because those cells are really regenerative because they're literally creating life over the course of a couple of months. And so for that reason, physicians have been able to take those and realize that you can repurpose them into other things that can really be regenerative and help treat diseases.
That's really cool, Kathryn. This is similar to what I was reading on your website, which is that there are these cells and there's like 3 different types that are all used to cure different things. So I'd love to hear more about the 3 different types and every health related thing that they can help with, because personally I found that really amazing.
Yeah. So there's the cord blood, cord tissue, and placenta stem cells. And so collectively, they're hematopoietic, mesenchymal, and placenta amnion stem cells. And so they're really inclined to either blood or tissue regeneration. And so as a result, they've been able to help with blood disorders or tissue ailments. So things like leukemia, HIV, type 1 diabetes, cerebral palsy, different types of cancers, even sports injuries, even acne scars. Things like this have all been addressed by cord blood stem cells or cord tissue or placenta stem cells, because they're either blood or tissue related. And so as a result, there is just an increasing number of use cases that are being looked at. So that's just within the past 10 years, but adoption of cord blood banking as a whole is increasing, and as is the speed and prowess of the research that's happening. So there's always more on the horizon.
That's really cool. And it's amazing how many different things just a few stem cells from birth can help with. So it sounds like there's been a lot of research and discoveries in these fields to figure out what stem cells can do. But I'm kind of wondering, like, if you can speak anything to where this research is headed and what kind of loose ends need to be tied up or things need to be figured out regarding stem cells and the research around them, because I'm sure there's a lot more that can be done.
Yeah. So I think one big thing is cell expansion is something that people are looking at in the future. I think people are constantly looking at new use cases in terms of diseases and things like that. Like HIV is one that in the past year has become much examined more frequently, because people have been using it more frequently for treating HIV. So people have used cord blood stem cells specifically for that. But on the actual like cell biology front, they've also been looking at cell expansion. So trying to figure out ways to basically make use of like only a few cells and really turning it into a greater volume and higher impact. So I think that's where it's looking like the science will be heading.
That's really cool. What are the implications for some of this science and research to just kind of larger issues in the field of science? Or I know there's been a lot of talk and protesting recently around Roe v. Wade. So I'm wondering if this in healthcare and working with new mothers has any relationship with that, or other science stuff as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to Roe v. Wade, there's, and maybe not like stem cells specifically that it has a huge impact on, but it definitely impacts birth generally, and just pregnancy overall. Because I think a lot of people forget that abortions, it doesn't just happen when people voluntarily don't want a baby anymore. It also happens if people have a miscarriage, or if people have an ectopic pregnancy or just any non-viable pregnancy. Then the way that it's treated is typically billed and identified as an abortion and uses pretty similar tactics to abortions, and in some cases like literally the same tactics. And so in a lot of states where abortion is being suddenly suppressed, they've also been trying to make sure that they can protect abortion care, or miscarriage care, and just helping pregnancy after loss, and making sure that just generally across the board, like non-viable pregnancies are able to really have proper healthcare attention. And so I think that's something that is often overlooked, and something that I really spend a lot of time researching around the time that Roe v. Wade was overturned, and also pushing out content related to it. I think that's something I always try to remind folks when they're looking at the legality of Roe v. Wade, is the fact that it's so much more nuanced than just like sort of the typical story that people think of like someone just not wanting to be pregnant anymore because they don't feel like it's the right time for them. But it's so much more than just that as a choice. There's also like people who really wanted to have a baby that are still experiencing an abortion. So I think it really is just a form of healthcare and not something that should be debated.
Wow, that's incredible, because even I have always thought about the overturning of Roe v. Wade to be more about just abortions and for unwanted pregnancies. It sounds like it's a lot more nuanced and has a lot more implications to all sorts of issues around having children.
Yeah, definitely.
That's incredible, and I'm glad I know that. Thank you. What would you say is your favorite thing about your job and the work that you do?
Yeah, I think that there's always more problems to be solved. Like I think whenever you're starting a business, there are always issues that will come up, whether it's like, yeah, like modifying a contract or like figuring out what to say to a client that has a really niche circumstance, or like figuring out ways to improve your content and optimize things. So there's just like always problems happening. But I think that's what makes startups fun, and that's what makes business fun in general. So it's just a part of the like so-called game of doing business. And I think impact is also the best part of it. So I think the problem solving is the best part of the day to day, but I think the general best part of it is when we get like really positive reviews, especially if it comes from parents that had a really difficult birth. It's nice to know that we could just play a small part in making it a little bit better.
Sounds like there's some amazing creativity and impact in your
Yeah.
job, and it sounds really rewarding. Yeah, and I was curious about that because I'm just wondering about your job for young people watching this program interested in going in science and healthcare. So I'd love to finish off with any advice you would have for those viewers.
Yeah, I would say, I think I was sort of touching upon this earlier, but I would just say just go for it. I think I know so many people that say they want to pursue entrepreneurship, but then they're just sort of waiting. They like, I think don't feel like they are at a place in their life where they feel like they have a good enough idea or like the means, but there are a lot of different programs out there as well that can help with like financial support and stuff like that. So I think entrepreneurship is much more accessible than people think. So you just have to really dig a little deeper to find it. But I think it's worth it because then you have the chance to really pursue what you want to do and make an impact in whatever consumer base you care most about.
That's really good advice. Thank you so much. And before we end for today, I would love to hear if there's anything else you would like to share about the work that you do or that you want people to know about Anja Health. Go for it.
Yeah, just if you know anyone pregnant, then definitely let them know about what they can do with their umbilical cord and placenta. It's something that not a lot of people know about. And I think my goal is even if people don't choose to move forward with us, just the chance to be informed on it is something really important. So yeah, I would just encourage you to let people know.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Kathryn. To find out more about Anja Health, you can visit anjahealth.com or follow any of the social media accounts listed here. Thank you all for being with us today, and we hope to see all you wonderful viewers back again for our next episode of Summer of Science.